Hello and welcome to another episode of Bare Bones Wargaming, a show with no bells, no whistles, no frills, just a man, a camera, and his game. On this episode, today on the 166th anniversary of the beginning of the Battle of the Wilderness, we're going to take a look at least one turn of the late Unpleasantness, which of course is two games in one, Gates of Richmond, and the game I'll be highlighting today, If It Takes All Summer, published by Compass Games and designed by Steve Ruiz. I think Ruiz is how you pronounce that, so my apologies if that's incorrect. Okay, so on this video I'm going to be showing you how the game plays, and also I am going to show you my solo method I've devised to play the game, because of course, as you all know, I'm the solitary general. So I'm always looking for different ways, different tricks, different things to do to, basically highlight ways to play things solo and to make it fun as well. Alright, now of course we are talking about the beginning of the Overland Campaign. So of course we'll be up here to start our battles. Okay, we got the Army of Northern Virginia stretched out there along the banks of the Rappahannock and then to the west. And then of course on the other side of the banks is of course the Army of the Potomac with Grant in charge. Okay, as you can see, this is a point-to-point movement system, and you also have strength points, which you can, and I'll just show you here over on this side, which you can use charts for if you don't want to put the strength point markers under, which I actually like using the charts because I find the strength point markers sometimes to be fiddly. As you can see here, some of the units are not in the game. Okay, that's why they're empty. And the ones that are yellow, unfortunately, of course, as you all know with war games, there's always errata. And some of the errata in this game is some of the strength points on the chart are not correct for the Confederates. So I went ahead and changed them with yellow dice. I used green or gray dice, of course, naturally, for the rebels. And I like using the dice rather than the counters that come because I find it easier to move them around and manipulate them and slide them and stuff. That's just my preference. So I'm going to be using the charts that come with the game. And again, there are strength point markers if you like to use strength points. Okay, so let's get rolling here. Alright, now we're going to take a look at the big picture here. And we're starting with the opening turn. Each turn is 2 turns long. So, of course, we're beginning on turn 1, which is May 4th and 5th. Grant actually put everything into motion 166 years ago. Or 56. Getting ahead of myself here. 156 years ago yesterday. So, this, of course, is focusing on the Battle of the Wilderness, which is this green area up here, which we'll be focusing on, right? 150, right? I'm doing my math right. Yeah, it should be 150. It was the 60s. Yeah. Okay. If I'm wrong, you guys can correct me in the comments, but I think I'm not the best at math, never have been. Alright, so let's roll along here. So the first thing we got to do is the supply phase. Now the supply rules for this game are pretty simple, okay? You just have to be able to trace to a supply source, and of course you have to trace within so many spaces for each side when it comes to supply. Now I played both of these games quite a bit, so I just want to make sure I get the correct number of spaces here. Okay, so basically the Confederates, any railroad hex that connects to a supply source, which there's one up here, and of course there's Richmond, within 8 points of that, you're good. That's a good bingo, so to speak. Okay. Now for the Union, you have to be able to trace to the depot marker, which is in the same space right now. We'll talk more about that in a second. Which you move along rail lines from your terminus spot, which of course is where your whole bulk of things is at, where your railhead is, if you will, your supply source. Okay. And of course the Union will need to trace there as well. For many unblocked railroad point, that's another 8 spaces as well. Let me just double check that and make sure I'm correct on that. Yeah, but as a Union player, you do not want to lose. You don't want to lose that depot marker and that terminus marker, because if the Confederates enter it without combat units, then you're going to be in big trouble. you're going to basically lose it for 3 turns, and then your units will be without supply, and then of course you'll be out of supply, and then attrition kicks in, and believe me, attrition in this game is brutal with a capital B. Okay, so you will want to make sure that you keep good track of that supply depot and keep it well guarded. Okay, so that's how supply works. Now the Union player can change his terminus if he wants. He can move it down over to here to Aquia Creek, okay, at the beginning of any turn. Right now, of course, I'm not going to do that because, well, there's nobody down there, and of course the Confederates will quickly come over, and that would be that. I'd be putting myself in bad shape, okay? All right, now events. There are 55 cards in the game that are events, okay, and each player starts with 8 cards. Now, of course, playing solo, if you have access to all 8 cards, that's going to really make things kind of messy, so to speak. So what I do is I only play 3 cards face up at a time. Then, of course, as I use them, either play them or discard them, I pull from my personal draw pile for each side and replace them. Okay, so since there's 8 cards to start, and again, I'm just kind of showing you my solo method, so that way if you're interested in this game, you'll have an idea, hey, can I play it solo? Well, the answer to me is yes, and here's how. Okay, so at the beginning of the game, I'm just rolling 3 8-sided dice, and I'm going to take my deck of 8 Confederate cards, and I rolled a 3, a 6, and a 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So the 3 opening cards for the Confederacy, I will put face up here at the bottom of their strength cards. So let me move you over just so you can see that here. Okay. And the cards are pretty basic. They've got a Civil War scene on each one. They're pretty self-explanatory. They're pretty well done too. I haven't really had a whole lot of issues with this game. A few things here and there, but overall it's been pretty good. So you can't get cards that are replacements. That's the only way you get any replacements in this game. Okay, you have to play a card and roll a die. Okay, and we also got blockade runners. Okay, this would be nice to save for the Confederacy because this is blockade runners. So anytime it looks like I got a bunch of rebel units out of supply, boom, I can play this and put them all in supply. Excellent. Now, since I'm not going to discard any of these or play any of these right now, I will go ahead and keep these other 5 cards in reserve, okay? And just hang on to them until such time as I need them. And again, I do this because it basically simulates the fog of war, and it keeps you on your toes, keeps you guessing, makes you take chances sometimes, like if you're wondering, could that card be in my hand? Should I discard this? Even though it's kind of good for me, do I want to hold on to it that long? So I like doing it that way. That's just my personal preference. Okay, let's see what the Union gets as their starting hand. The Union's going to be 1, 7, 5. So let's count them off. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So let's see what the Union is going to get to flip face up here. And I'll just show you these. I'll hold them in my hand since I showed you how my setup is. I'm not going to keep moving the camera around any more than I have to, quite frankly. Okay, so nice card that I'll keep for combat. Upton attacks. I read a biography of him years ago. Very brilliant but tragic man. If I recall correctly, he committed suicide eventually. But +2 die roll modifier. Awesome. So that definitely will stay in play. Ding! Mud. So I can slow them Rebs down. And then my last card, some more replacements. So again, I'm not going to be discarding anything here either to dig deeper into my personal pile. Now in this game, you can play cards at any moment in the game, except the one exception is between rounds of combat. So how you play things, the timing of things is part of the strategy of the game, and it makes the game a lot of fun too, even if you know what's there. It still makes it very interesting, that kind of counterpoint strategy sort of thing that you can go ahead and do. Okay. Now the next part of the turn is each player gets 2 event cards. Okay. Now, of course, since I'm doing setup and I start with 8 cards, that's why I don't include these 2 in it, because it's part of the first turn. Now each player can hold up to 10 cards in their hand at any given time. Okay. More than that, you got to get rid of it. Okay. So the Union player in this particular game draws 2, and of course, as you can see, I've got gray cards here for to the Gates of Richmond, or Gates of Richmond. I always want to say 2 because that's the Stephen Sears book title. But Gates of Richmond, I put blue. Yeah, I know, right? So 2 for the Union, and 2 for the Rebs. Okay, so everybody now is at their maximum of 10 cards allowed. All right. Now, to the heart of each turn. Now, each player now gets to do their movement and their combat. The Union goes first. Okay. Now, combat is a function of movement. So you're going to move a particular force, a stack, move it into an enemy space, execute combat there, and then that unit is done for the turn. Okay, after they fight, and move as far as they want to, if they don't move into an enemy space. Okay. You can have. Let me back up. Let's just do it this way. Stacking, there's no stacking in this game, okay? I mean, you can put everything, you can put your whole army in one space if you want, but beware, beware. If you get surrounded by the enemy and you have to retreat, okay? Well, if you have to retreat through all enemy occupied spaces, you have to basically retreat through one in order to get home, okay? The entire stack, however big that stack happens to be, whatever the strength is, you lose half. Let me say that again. Half of the strength points. So, it is not advisable. And, as John Malkovich says in Rounders, this one is not good for you. Okay? It's not good for you to get yourself surrounded, so just keep that in mind. So making like a mega army is not advisable. Yeah, wouldn't do that. Alright, so let's get rolling here. Okay? So again, I'm going to zero in on the top part of the map because that's where the action is going to be. So let's head up here to the area of the Rappahannock, and you can see all those green spaces there. That's the wilderness. Okay. Alright, well, the first thing I want to do, of course, is try to get through the wilderness as quick as I can, and I'd like to clear out Fredericksburg as well, because Fredericksburg down here, this will allow me to then switch my base to the much closer line, because I have to follow the rail line, and there's no rail line going down to here. There's a Union rail line that goes this way, and then there's a rail line that goes this way to Richmond. Okay, and if I go that way, you can see I'm going to have to go way out to the west and come down. I was never the best math student, but one thing I do remember is the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line, and clearly this railroad over here is a much straighter line than the other one. So, alright, let's get rolling here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try and get some cavalry fights here. I'm going to try and push in the rebel cavalry. There's rebel cavalry here at Wilderness Tavern, over here at Fredericksburg, and there's one way over here at the Rapidan River, but I don't care about him. Alright. Okay, so let's get rolling. Alright, first things first. And again, just to show you how the game works and functions. Again, I'm not pretending this is the world's greatest strategy, but, you know, just to show how things work. So, movement is basically 4 for infantry units. We have a basic movement of 4. Basic movement for cavalry and leaders is 6 spaces. Okay, and everything is pretty much uniform. It doesn't cost you extra movement points to move through any place. The only exception to that is if you use the optional rule, that causes the Union to have to spend 2 movement points to go through any green wilderness space. Because according to the designer's notes, apparently during playtesting, some folks, probably through a combination of cards, because I've seen some interesting things happen with the combination of cards in this game, the Union was able to slip through pretty quick, which of course, if you know anything about the Overland Campaign, that was the whole point. Grant was basically trying to swing around Lee and get down as fast as he could to Richmond, and of course, you know, it was basically like, you know, trying to match, you know, blocking pieces and stuff, almost like playing, you know, foosball, or, you know, the rod hockey. You know, you slide your player one place, I'm going to slide mine down there to confront him. Okay? Alright, so let's roll. So, I'm going to go ahead and start over here and activate Greg. Okay? And I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, and then you also have to still have a movement point to be able to move into the space to attack, and that's 4. Now, one thing I do for this game, that, you know, this is just, again, something for me, solo, because sometimes, you know, when you play by yourself, things can sometimes get confusing, to be honest, especially when you start to play free, you know, yeah. So what I do is I mark the space where I came from, and I mark the space where the battle is actually happening, depending on who is, you know, on each side there. And then I move the battle down to the bottom of the table because I just find it easier to do. So let's go down to the bottom, shall we? Here we are. And I'll zoom in a little bit here. There we go. Okay. All right. Now, so we've got Arlie versus Greg. Okay. Now, the number on the left is your strength points. The number on the right is your leadership value. Okay. So you can see these two gentlemen are fairly evenly matched, and Greg is a little bit bigger. Okay. So let's go through real combat again is pretty straightforward here. It's an interesting combat system. I like it. There's a lot I like about this game, so spoiler for the review that will be coming eventually. But doing the combat modifiers is pretty straightforward. First thing you do is you check for strength. If one side is 2 times or more bigger, then you get a die roll modifier. Okay. In this case, neither side is twice as large as the other, so there's no die roll modifiers there. Okay. Then you check for supply, where everybody is in supply because we all started out the game turn in supply, so no problems there. Okay. Now, leaders. Now, leaders, this is where it gets interesting because the bigger the battle, the more people you have involved. You can use up to 3 leaders and their combat die roll modifiers. You can have army, corps, and whatever is your lead division, your point division, which we'll see here in a minute because I'll start moving some folks around and maybe I'll, march over and just try to kick Yule's butt just to show you how the game works. Although typically I probably wouldn't do that. But anyway, so here we have these two gentlemen both have the same leadership value. So there's going to be no die roll modifier there. Okay, and then there is terrain that can affect things too. A river point, which is the blue spaces on the map. Crossing a river bar, which is dark blue. I'll show you those here in a second. The Richmond Works, okay, and then of course you can also build breastworks, which is an optional rule as well. Okay, so it's pretty straightforward. Again, there's not a billion things to calculate. You don't have to sit here. You don't need your slide rule. Oh, I'm dating myself. You need your phone because let's face it, nobody uses a calculator now, right? So once you figure all these out, then the attacking player rolls 2 dice. So here we go. So the Union rolled lucky number 7. 7 come 11. Down in the boys' gym. Charlie Brown. He's a clown. Alright, so 7. Now on the combat results table, that basically, and let me go ahead and pop up here so I can zoom out and I'll show you the combat results table here. I'll hold it up with the camera. So whatever the die roll ends up being, you figure out the combat results here. So here is, let me see if let's go just a tiny bit more. So there you can see I rolled a 7. Okay, and it gives you the loss for both sides. Okay, now if there's an asterisk, that is potential leader loss. So let's start with those two things first. So both sides are going to lose a strength. So we're going to go over to the respective tracks, and each one loses a step. So Arlie pops down from 3 to 2, and Greg will pop down from 4 to 3. Okay, now strictly speaking, in the rules, you lose the leader on a die roll of a 1 or a 2. But I got to tell you, I really felt in playing this game a couple of times already that really made things very swingy. I understand, at this point in the war there was, a number of leaders that were getting killed. Most famously during the Overland Campaign, Jeb Stuart killed at Yellow Tavern, and of course Sedgwick, who was inspiring his men over at Spotsylvania Courthouse and said, "Don't worry, lads, they couldn't hit an elephant at this distance." And bam, as soon as he got the words out of his mouth, he's down. So I played one game like that, and it was brutal. I just was losing leaders left and right, and I was like, just for me personally, it was too much. So what I've done is I adjusted the rules for that. So any leader still dies on a roll of 1. Now, Stuart and Sedgwick, who historically bit the dust here, they are still a 1 or a 2. So let's check the fate of our 2 leaders here. Okay, well, I rolled a 4. The red are the rebels, and red rebels get it. And the green, which has nothing to do with the Union, but it's just my favorite pool of dice that I use for every game, whatever side I, quote unquote, am actively playing, so to speak. It's a 3, so nobody got whacked here. Okay? Alright, so far so good. Alright, now both sides lost their step. Now, since it's a total cavalry battle, or I shouldn't say total cavalry battle, let me rephrase. Since there's cavalry involved, if either cavalry unit loses a strength point, they must retreat from the space that they're in. Okay, so both sides here are going to have to retreat from where they were. But, and this is one of the things I really like about this game, notice here, okay, for every single result, except for extreme results, like 11 or more, which is where the attacker's just kicking butt, and of course 3 or less where the defender's kicking butt, you have to roll a die to see if combat goes on. So I like that because oftentimes when you launched attacks during this time period and stuff, some of the battles like took on a life of their own, for lack of a better way to articulate. Okay, so let's go back up here to our map, and both these gentlemen took some hits, and they're both going to need to fall back 1 space. Okay, so Greg will fall back up here, or he'll fall back to Salem Church, I'm sorry, the space he came from, and then of course Fredericksburg, I'm going to pull them down to Hamilton's Crossing to leave Lee sitting on top of the railroad there. Okay, because of course remember, the Union's going to need the railroad to keep themselves supplied, so the longer I can do that, the better off I am. Now, Greg is done. He's finished for the turn. Stick a fork in him. Okay, he's finished. All right, now at this point, if I wanted to, I could play a replacement card for either side. Again, you can play cards at any moment except between rounds of a battle. Okay, now remember, I already have the Mud card as the Union, and there is a Forced March card in here, which means if I could find that Forced March card right now, if it's in my hand, then I could play the Mud card on the Rebels right before it's their turn, and then I could play my Forced March now, and I would get 6 movement points for my infantry and 8 for my cavalry that's left, and then the Rebels would be reduced to 3 and 5. But do I gamble? Well, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and gamble. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to play this replacement card. Okay, so I'm going to roll a die. All right, 1 through 3 I get 1 strength point, 4 through 6 I get 2. And then I'll need to replace because I'm playing the 3-hand method, as I call it. Okay, it's a 2, so good news. I only got 1 strength point, and that's all I needed. In order for a unit to get a strength point, it just has to be in supply, and that's determined at the beginning of the turn. All right, so now, over here, in my hand of Union cards, 4, 5, 6, 7. I have 7 cards left. So I'm going to roll the almighty 8-sided die, and I rolled a 5. So what did I get? Well, let's count them off. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There it is. Nope, it did show. I didn't throw a part off. There it is. My dramatic gesture was lost. So there it is, the number 5 card. All right. So what is it? Well, as my little man likes to say, because he loves his Peppa Pig, ready, steady, go. Ah. Oh, actually it worked. Look at that. Grant steals a march. All Union units receive an additional 2 MP this turn. Now again, I can play this at any moment I want. So that's about what I'm going to do. Woo, sweet. Alrighty, boys and girls, because I'm going to go ahead and plan on shifting my base and being able to grab all this down here. Okay. Now, what I also like to do playing solo is I like to go ahead and when I play a card for either side, let me tilt this down a little bit more. There we go. I will put it somewhere on the edge of the map here, and I'll put a die on to indicate who it's for. Okay. So in this particular place here, I'm going to go ahead and put the blue die on because I'm playing this obviously for the Union. Okay, and right now, instantly, I'm now going to play the mud one on the Confederacy, and I'll put a red die on it to remind me that all opponents have a -1 movement point. Now that leaves me 2 free slots with 6 cards, so I'm going to roll 2 dice. And I rolled a 2 and a 5. So let's see what 2 cards I get. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. All right. 2 and 5. Come on down. You're the next contestants on if it takes all summer. What did I get? Let's find out. Oh, look at this. I got Yule is sick. So any units with Yule's core can move or attack but not do both. So again, you can play cards at any time. So guess what? I'm playing this. so I can cripple Yule this turn. Woo! Because Yule is the closest Confederate force to all my Union guys are going to try and slip down here through the wilderness. Whew. Oh, this is an interesting card. This is a bit of a gamble card. This is the Battle of Newmarket. Okay, so I could do this. If Siegel wins, Breckinridge never arrives. However, if Siegel blows it, good chance of that, then Breckinridge arrives next turn. Okay, and then use only once and remove from the deck. Now, some cards, as you can see here at the bottom, have a roll 1d6 and you reshuffle on a roll of 1 through 3. Okay, so you know what? I'm feeling lucky. Do I feel lucky? So far, I've got momentum, clearly. I mean, I've got 2 cards that are killing the Confederates, and then I've got Grant getting 2 extra movement points for all my Union forces. So here we go. It is a... Whoops. What? Oh, I'm sorry. I violated my own rule. I have a rule. If I roll a die and I forget to clear the tray like I did with the 2 cards that I drew, then I have to re-roll, because they could influence things, and that's just my rule. So, and you'll never know what the die roll was anyway, so, you know. Here we go. It is a roll of a 1. Ding, 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 ding. So, Siegel wins. Breckinridge never arrives. I'll remove this from the game. And now, Mr. Breckinridge, I'm going to go over here to the turn track. Let's see, where is he at? There's Breckinridge, which is good, because he has a combat leadership value of 3. Na, 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 na. Na, 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 na. Hey, 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 goodbye. All right. Adios. Thanks for playing. Here's some nice party gifts for you. Turtle wax for a shinier turtle. Okay, so Breckinridge is out of the game. Awesome. This is going very well at the beginning. And I think you can see what's happening here already. Part of the appeal of this game is there's some really cool stuff that can happen. Now, I've got 2 more replacements. Now, again, you can imagine what would happen with this game if you're playing as 2-player and you have access to all 8 of your cards. But again, timing, as Napoleon said, is everything. So, I got 4 cards left. I need 2 replacements. So, I will roll some 4-sided dice. Yeah, I just bought every dice that's known to mankind. And I rolled, let's see, what did I get? I rolled a 3 and a 2. So, let's see what cards 2 and 3 are. Alright. So, 1, 2, and 3. So, what did I get this time? Ooh. Save it for next turn. I got Forced March. Oh. Or maybe not. You know what? I can double down on this. I can play this, because you can play as many cards as you want. I could play this, and all of my units would have 4 extra movement points. Let me see what the other card is first. Oh. Union Cavalry and Infantry cannot stack for the rest of the game. Well, guess what? I'm discarding that. Okay, because you can discard it at any time. Let me see what my other card is, because now I have an empty slot in my 3. And again, if I wanted to, as the Confederates, I could suddenly stop right now and try to do replacements for Lee and try to get a new card for them. Alright. So it's even. Because I only got 2 cards left now out of those original 10. Now, of course, the downside is I'm only going to get 2 each turn after this. So I'm really burning through my cards. Let's see. Lack of coordination. So no additional attacks against a point. Okay. What that basically is talking about is this. When you have a point, you can, like this one here, you can basically attack it from every single spot that connects to it. Okay, each turn. So like this point here, Concord Church, could be attacked 3 times in a single turn. St. Paul's Church, Belleville, and Bethel Church. Okay. However, when you do that, after the first one, you have to roll a die and compare it to the commander's leadership value, and it has to be equal to or less than that die roll for the attack to happen. Otherwise, thanks for playing. Okay. You know what? I want to see what that last card is. I'm going to discard that one. So, oh, wait, I forgot. Shoot. Yeah, I think I forgot to roll the single. Reroll. Oh, it's a 4, so no worries there. And again, lack of coordination. Well, you know what? I don't have any more cards in my hand, so I'm going to go ahead and put that down. Now, the Confederates have taken a beating, so you know what? I'm going to play this 1 replacement card, which is only a 0 or 1 replacement, to try and get a different card and try and help out here. Because again, Arlee is in supply. He's within 8 spaces of a friendly railroad. And I'm going to try and get a new card to see if I can counter some of this Union. Crazy. Alright, so I rolled a 4. So he will get 1 strength point back. Excuse me. And I will discard that. And now, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so the Confederates have 7. Back to the 8-sided die. And I rolled a 1. So, new card coming into play for the Rebs. It's Grant demands attacks. Ooh, I could play this. Because if I play this and Grant doesn't make 3 attacks this turn, then we skip the Union movement and combat the entire next turn. Ooh. See, that's bad for the Union, because if I play that now, then that means that I'm not going to be able to just run south as fast as I can as the Union. I'm going to have to stop and hammer some people. All right, let's do some math here. So it says 3 attacks, not infantry. Oh no, 3 infantry attack. Wow. Oh, that stings. Yikes. Ooh, just when I thought I was sitting pretty. Well, this is a bit of a downer. You know what? I'm going to play it as the Confederates. Okay, and I'm going to play it on the Union. Whew. Ouch. Okay. Now, of course, they'll get a replacement card, because, again, one of the 3 slots is empty. Alright. Excuse me. Having trouble with allergies and pollen and stuff. Okay, so here we go. Ah, this will be good. The Mule Shoe, which was part of the Spotsylvania Courthouse, as I recall. It's been a while since I've studied this, and I haven't read anything recently, so I'm pulling this from memory. Alright, so I'll save that, because that's a +2 modifier. And believe me, die roll modifiers are huge in this game. Very big. Okay, whew, well, that was quite the mess. Alright, let's stop here and contemplate for a minute. Not too long, of course, because, you know, I want to make my videos ridiculously long, but I may have to do something I don't normally do. I may have to make a second video on this, because this is, you know, this video is already taking quite a bit of time. I think I've been at this now for almost a half an hour, okay? But hopefully this shows you, though, too, the richness of the game. You know, how interesting, you know, this game is. I really am enjoying this, by the way. So again, spoiler alert for the review, but okay. So I got 2 choices here as the Union. Let's face it, as Grant. I can focus on the 3 infantry attacks, or I could play my other forced march card and just march my guys to death. But then I'll give the Confederates 2 movement and combat phases in a row. So that probably will let them catch up to wherever I am. But I'll be able to dictate where I am. You know, like Napoleon, I'll be able to arrive on the battlefield first and secure my rail line further south. Wow. Let me do some quick math here real fast. Let me see, with a -1 movement because of mud, can any Confederate units reach my depot? Yes, actually, that cavalry unit up there, that F. Lee, Fitzhugh Lee, he can reach it. No one else can right now. Well, Jeb Stuart can, unless he gets pushed further back. Oh, wait a minute, hold on. Technically, can he reach it? 1, 2, 3. Yes, he can't. Technically, he can, but he's about to get pushed back. All right. So do I save that forced march, or do I play it? Do I double down and give myself 4 extra movement points and try to get as far down this line as I can? See, normally I would use Sheridan to clear Stuart out of the Wilderness Tavern, but I'm not 100% sure I want to do that now, because I can swing further south. Because clearly I'll be setting up my supply line at Aquia Creek. next turn. It's not going to stay where it is. But somebody's going to have to stay behind to guard the depot for a bit. Or at least guard the approaches to it. Yeah. Okay, you know what? Let me just see real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if I only use 6, that'll bring Grant down to here. But if I use 8, he could come as far down as to here. Now, is that really that big of a difference? I don't think so. So you know what? I'm not going to double down on the movement and stuff, and I'm just going to have to skip next turn attacks. I'm going to have to. I don't see how I can get 3 infantry attacks in this. Because if I go chasing after Yule, then I'm going to go far to the west, and Richmond's my goal. But I guess the other side of the flip side of the coin is, if I went that way, then I could try to destroy the Confederate army. That's true. And forget about the rail line. See, there's lots to think about with this game. There's a lot of decisions and things that going on here. Yeah. Okay, I'm spending too much time thinking here. So, but again, I'd like to show you how the game works and part of the ideas here and stuff. So, let's do this. Should I come to grips with the rebels? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's see. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. I could slam into Yule, and then when Yule's cleared out of the way, I could say take my other 2 corps and push to the west. But then I probably would leave my supply line alone. Okay, I'll tell you what. Here's what I'm going to do. Because a lot's going on here and there's lots to think about, and I've already been running this video for a good half an hour, I'm going to break this into several parts. Mostly because I really like this game. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to stop here, and I'm going to contemplate which way I want to go, rather than waste your time. Once I have a plan in motion, I'll come back with part 2, and once part 2 is locked and loaded and ready, once I'm ready to go, part 2 I'll pick up with the Union movement, and then we can move faster and get through battles and all that stuff. Because it's going to take a few minutes to try and figure out what's the best strategy here, whether I should just race south as fast as I can, or whether I should try and fulfill these 3 attacks so I don't lose my entire Union turn next phase. So that's what I'm going to do. Okay. So again, hopefully this gives you an idea here, this preliminary prelude to actual battle, although we did have one small battle. It gives you an idea of kind of the richness of this game. Okay, so I'm going to put my Grant hat on off camera and figuratively smoke my cigar, not literally because I've never smoked anything in my life, and then I'll come back for you with part 2 with a plan. It's all part of the plan, and then we'll unleash the rest of this game. Okay, so this is Tim Korchner from Bare Bones Wargaming, saying thanks for watching this opening overview here, and we'll come more to grips with battle and actual campaigning here the next turn and the next video. So thanks for watching, and see you next time when we actually unleash Grant. And for those of you old enough to remember this, will Grant take the army to the west and grapple with the rebels? Will he race south and try to get as far as he can and lose his next turn? Tune in next time. Same Bare Bones Wargaming time, same Bare Bones Wargaming channel. Or I guess maybe same Civil War channel. Either way, those of you old enough, you get that joke. Thanks for watching. Be back with part 2 when the 2 armies will grapple, or not, at that time.